Welcome back to another episode of Quick Charge by Electrek. It's May 30th, and I'm your host, Joe Boris. We're going to start off today's show with one of the most significant new product announcements of the last couple of years. General Motors has finally gotten its Chevy Equinox into the hands of a number of customers, and our own Scooter Doll was able to drive it last week. This is an incredibly important vehicle launch for GM. This is a 5-passenger crossover right at the heart of the mainstream automotive market. It's supposed to be an affordable vehicle. It's supposed to be a vehicle that's accessible to families, accessible to suburbanites, accessible to city dwellers. This is supposed to be a vehicle that brings electrification and EVs into the modern day in a way that the Tesla Model 3 and Tesla Model Y were supposed to do, and in many ways did. But this is obviously a legacy brand with a traditional dealer experience that still the vast majority of consumers in the United States seem to feel more comfortable with rather than buying a vehicle online. So it's important that GM gets this right, not only on the product side, but also on the dealer side. Now, if you look at this product, you can see it's got a very conventional interior, conventional rear seats, dashboard, especially for 2024, 2025. We're used to seeing touch screens like this now. But again, this is just such a normal vehicle. I think a lot of people, especially people who are not automotive savvy, who are not industry savvy, are going to see this and not think twice about it being electric or gas powered or anything. They're just going to see a fairly conventional crossover driving by. And that's exactly what GM wants. And I think what Chevy dealers want. So this is going to meet those needs. Now, Scooter drove this vehicle. He had plenty of great things to say about it. Just want to read a little bit from the article. The ride is smooth and relatively quiet, and the estimated 319-mile range, if confirmed by the EPA, will be a huge selling point for consumers who still don't understand that they don't need more than 300 miles of range on most days. That's absolutely true. We still live in a country where most people drive 30 to 40 miles per day, if that. The idea of a 300-mile range, this is something that I think is really important, especially for people who don't have access to home charging. If you live in an apartment or a condo, it's not necessarily recommended to do fast charging, DC fast charging for every charge up that you do, but this is perfect for someone who, let's say, goes to Target or Walmart or Whole Foods once a week. They can plug in, they can get the juice that they need for the rest of the week while they do their groceries, move on from there. It's again initially teased at a $35,000 crossover. The 3LT trim that Scooter drove was $45,000 with a $7,500 federal tax credit. You're looking at a BEV for under $40K. Now, keep in mind, there's other EV rebates out there depending on where you are in the country. There's some local utility rebates. There's some state rebates, especially if you are a municipality or if you are a business and you're looking to buy one of these for work. You're going to be able to get this for a lot less than $40K. So I think that's incredibly solid. I think GM's got a winner on their hands, and this is going to be something that, again, if the dealers can get it right, if the software delivers, if the reliability is there, I think this is going to be a huge winner for Chevrolet. Moving on, we've got a couple of stories about Tesla. Tesla is preparing to get full self-driving package approved in China. This is something that's been talked about in the last couple of weeks. It's kind of a, he said, she said kind of deal where we can't really get a solid answer about what's going on in China. At one point, it was believed that China was going to give a full blanket approval to Tesla. Then they kind of dialed that back. But it's going to be interesting to see this, especially since they seem to be starting with employee vehicles. So this report comes after CEO Elon Musk met with Chinese Premier Li Qiang. It sounds like it was an unofficial deal, as Tesla still needs to go through the proper channels. Fred's got a whole lot more about this in the article, so we definitely encourage you to read that. But I want to highlight this quote from the Reuters report. A successful software registration with China's Ministry of Industry and Information Technology will pave the way for Tesla to internally test full self-driving by having its employees drive on China's public roads before delivering it as an upgrade to its Chinese users in the coming months. Now, this is something that, again, has always been one of the selling points of a Tesla vehicle. You buy the vehicle, it's got the hardware capability in there. And as the capability gets developed in the software, it can get pushed out as an over-the-air software update. And now you have features in the car that when you originally bought it, you didn't have. Now, you can have that argument and say, look, in the past, as often as new features have been added to vehicles by over-the-air updates, we have seen some scenarios where, vehicle range was software locked, or perhaps somebody bought a vehicle that previously had full self-driving and then that feature was turned off. We can debate whether or not that's a good thing down the road, but I think it's worth noting that at least in this case, it seems to be entirely positive, that there seems to be a day on the horizon, not too far away, where everybody who bought a Chinese Tesla, and again, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of customers in China who are driving around in Teslas, may soon be able to have access to full self-driving, which can only be positive. The next Tesla story that we have here, Tesla is reassuring a judge that the move to Texas won't affect Elon's compensation case. Now, this has more to do with the way that certain states are incorporated in the US. So, because each state has its own laws, different companies try to incorporate their businesses in different states in order to take advantage of those laws. And that's what Tesla did initially. It was something that Chrysler did in the 80s and 90s when they were restructuring. They moved the corporation from Detroit to Delaware. So this is not something new. This is not some like scam thing that Elon is doing. This is a very standard practice in the US. But moving it out of Delaware, moving the company out of Delaware to Texas, is interesting because this is happening at a time when the Delaware courts struck down Elon's $55 billion compensation package. The judge was expressing concern that moving the company from Delaware to Texas was a move to get that reinstated and effectively get it reinstated outside of the shareholder vote that's coming up in June. So Tesla's own lawyers called that rank speculation. Should be noted that speculation is not a no, that's not a denial, but McCormick is taking them in their words. If I have interpreted the defendant's position correctly, then defense counsel, as officers of the court, are duty bound to correct it. In the meantime, the defendant's statement gives me great comfort. So effectively, Tesla is saying that's not going to happen. We're not doing it for that reason. There are other reasons, deregulation, things like that, that Texas is a little bit friendlier to what Elon and company are trying to do. And if you believe that, then yeah, good for them. Vote accordingly with your Tesla shares. And again, I saw some of the comments yesterday about some of my initial stories and comments about Tesla. I'm not a Tesla shareholder. I am not a Tesla short. I do not have a stake in Tesla whatsoever. My personal opinion, I just can't follow it. There's too much stuff going on. There's too many moving pieces. Elon says stuff that never happens. The company rolls out products that never see the light of day. Promises are made and broken. I have no idea what to believe. The PE valuation seems bananas to me. But again, what do I know? Go into the comments. Let us know what you think. Let me know what I'm supposed to think. And maybe future episodes, I'll have a little bit different take on Elon. We'll see. Moving on to the next story. Volkswagen U.S. dealers question if the new ID.7 EV can compete amid delays. Now, this is an interesting thing, right? Because this is obviously a very beautiful car. We've seen these concepts coming out for the last couple of years. This is a gorgeous vehicle. Volkswagen absolutely knows how to build solid products. If you don't believe that under the Volkswagen brand, certainly Audi, Lamborghini, Bentley, these are all desirable products, right? So Volkswagen knows what it's doing. They have staff that understand what needs to happen in order to make a vehicle look good, drive well, do the thing, right? Do the car thing. But the United States is an interesting market. There are currently, I think, zero, with the death of the Chevy Malibu, zero domestic auto brands successfully selling a sedan, electric sedan of any kind, right? With the exception of Tesla. So I want to throw in that caveat and acknowledge Tesla has very successfully sold sedans in the United States. So there is a sedan market. There is a market for sedans, but it's not one that legacy brands seem to understand or seem to be able to compete in. Now, Volkswagen is a legacy brand, and the question has to be raised whether or not a $60,000 flagship Volkswagen sedan will find an audience in North America. And if you're looking at what the dealers are saying, they don't seem convinced that it does. Are we sure this is a good idea? Says John Luciano, who's a VW National Dealer Advisory Council member. We didn't know an exact pricing, but it's definitely a $50,000 to $60,000 car without incentives. Is there any chance of it being competitive? And we felt like it's not. So here's VW dealers, people who presumably understand VW customers, saying, look, we're taking a good hard look at this flagship sedan, this sporty sedan from Volkswagen, from the parent company, and we're not confident that it can compete with the vehicles that are out there. And what's out there? You've got the Tesla Model 3, you've got the Hyundai Ioniq 6, and not much else that's a sedan, right? And even with that very limited audience, they're saying, we don't see it. We can't sell it. Don't bother bringing it. So that's a tough blow for people who really wanted to spend 60,000, maybe 70,000 out the door by the time you get taxes and tags in there on a new Volkswagen sedan. And if both of you are listening to that, again, go down to the comments, let me know what I'm missing, because I really can't imagine spending $60,000 on a car like this. I think VW pushing it back is an absolutely brilliant move. This is not a car that US customers are clamoring for. And if they really wanted to do something for US customers, maybe they do a pickup version of the ID Buzz. I think that's something that would go crazy in California. People would buy that all over. Heck, I might buy one of those. That sounds fun. All right. And we'll close this out with our last story of the day. We're going to make this an energy story. Michelle Lewis wrote about this yesterday. This is in New York City, about to get its largest battery storage project. This is a project that's going to replace a natural gas peaker plant that's going to be retiring in 2025. This is a 15 megawatt grid scale battery storage facility at the Arthur Kill Power Station in the borough of Staten Island. That's pictured on the previous page. And when New York's largest battery storage installation is complete, it will be able to power more than 10,000 households during peak demand periods and be the region's first such existing power facility to be repurposed for battery storage. This is great news. Everybody who talks about EVs, there's a huge concern about grid resiliency and grid stability and how we can take that off-peak energy that's not only inexpensive, but more readily available, and save that for use when we need it most, which really is in the middle of the day, that peak duck curve. And, if you start talking to utility people, they talk about duck curve. They talk about like energy curtailment, which is effectively waste energy. So this is something that's going to really help solve both of those issues and help to stabilize the scenario. Now, you and I both know you're an electric reader, you're an electric follower. You understand that EVs, especially EVs with vehicle to grid capacity and V to X capacity and capabilities, support the grid. They don't damage the grid. They don't strain the grid. They don't make it worse. And you get all kinds of, what they call FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt kind of articles questioning that, who don't really understand the technology involved. This seems to be a project where people do understand the technology. They do understand the potential benefits of battery energy storage systems or BESS systems. We love to see it. Definitely go on down to the comments and let them know, or let us know what you think. I think this is solid. I'd love to see this at my local utility, and I bet you would too. That's it for today. That is May 30th. And be sure to like and subscribe if you like what you hear, and let us know what you think of the new host. That's me in the comments.